Hey guys, welcome back. This is a different environment for me as well as for you, and I know. But these are the times that make great men. So we're going to challenge you today to think about the habits that you're developing. But I wanted to share with you the habits of successful entrepreneurs. So when we talk about entrepreneurs, as if you remember, and we'll kind of do a little recap here. We talked a little bit about what is an entrepreneur? Well, what is entrepreneurship first? And really, entrepreneurs solve problems and a business solve problems. And so, I wanted to get you to thinking about that. And if you're just now watching for the first time, just go to the YouTube links that have been sent out to you and you can see that. And then the second thing we talked about are the types of entrepreneurs, whether you're talking about the inventors, the technicians, the deal makers, and where they fall. And then the third thing that we shared, which was actually the last session and the last time we were together, was about mindset. Really, two different types of mindset. Two different types of mindset: fixed mindset, growth mindset, and that is what you really want to have. And so, having those mindsets, one of the next most important thing of entrepreneurship and successful entrepreneurs are their habits, developing great habits. And so today, a few minutes I have with you, we're going to spend time talking about that. And then also we'll share some other resources that you can read through at a deeper level and be able to actually share the information with your friends, download the workbooks and work through them. Okay. So, hey, let's get started, guys. So let's talk about 8 effective habits of successful entrepreneurs. Just a little bit about myself. You guys see me with the 100, and well, we actually own a retail store. Been there, been in the business since '97, but actually opened the store in 2001. And that's untraditional in today's environment. And yes, as we go through this pandemic, I'm taking a challenge because, hey, my store is closed. So I'm having to read to do things, but taking what I'm sharing with you, one, that mindset piece. Hey, I'm having a growth mindset. I'm learning a lot during this time frame. I'm learning some new skill sets, but it's requiring me to really look at my habits and refine my habits. Being transparent with you, as a business owner, I coach and train, I speak. Um, also, people actually pay me to speak. So with that said, that is a business that we're developing, another business. But when I talk about the habits, I look at my habits kind of being out of kilter. And so this here was great for me because I got a chance to go back and look at my habits and say, okay, Howard, which ones have shifted? See, habits are those things that is easier. Let's talk about that a little bit. What is a habit? Habit is something that's easier to do than not to do. So you have habits. And you just got to ask yourself, and I want you to write this down as you're taking notes. Does my habits serve me well? Does my habits serve me well? Okay. Now, that is one of the things I want to challenge you to think about. So, no matter what career you're in, there's a set of habits that greatly increase your odds. And so, these habits I'm sharing with you, even if you're not looking to own a business in your life, which is fine, but as you go through your career, you're going to work to solve problems. So whether you're the mechanic, the technician, or the engineer that design the car, that work on the car, you still solve problems, okay? And there are habits that increase those odds. The beautiful thing about habits is, as they say, success leave clues. Okay, so you can look at those and see. And so we're going to talk about entrepreneurs in particular. And as I said, it leaves clues. You can look at successful people, successful entrepreneurs, and you can see the clues that are left as it relates to their habits. Okay. And if you study their habits, you study them, you'll see the habits that they develop. Getting up early, being able to see beyond problems, being able to face adversity. And we're going to talk about those a little bit each more in detail. So there's no reason that you cannot develop those successful habits. A few of you play sports. that are in the 100 in the Project Excel in our program, fewer you play sports. And you look at the successful athletes, they have certain rituals and routines that they do that have become habits. You know, one of the most famous receivers of all time, his name is Jerry Rice. One of his habits, he worked out so religiously that he couldn't stop doing it, still does it from my understanding today, even though he plays no longer. Guess what, Jerry? He would select hotels based on their gym. You know, that's where he would, based on where he lived. So this is a quote by Dr. John C. Maxwell, one of the foremost in leadership development and training, guy that I've had a chance to study under. One of the things he says, you can never change your life until you change something you do daily. Habit, okay, that you do daily. And the secret of your success is found in your daily routine. Habit. So I want to challenge you to think about that as we go through this and ask yourself, hey, what are my habits? You know, what's going to be my daily routines? What am I going to do differently? Let me just get my keyboard set up a little different here as we go through this here and get things ready for you. So these are habits that will help you be a successful entrepreneur. But I want you to think about this here because, you know, you're in high school, you're in middle school right now as you watch this and getting ready to go to college. But you want to look at everything that you go into, as we talked about, whatever your career is. What's the habit of a successful student? And maybe we should do that later in the year as you get ready to reset, or what's the habit that bridges of a successful summer. But wherever you are, the people that have had success, guess what? They leave clues to what they do and what their habit is. So number one is an incredible work ethic. As an entrepreneur, you got to outwork everyone. You know, initially you're a jack of all trades. You're doing everything. Okay, so because you can't afford to pay others. But eventually as you grow, it's going to come down to you doing one thing. And so that is something you got to determine. You got to be willing to outwork everyone. You know, in my retail store, especially when I first started and even until recently, and when we have big days, I'm the first to show and the last to leave. Willing to do any job on the road. You know, Billy Duncan, you know, I was talking to him the other day and during this time frame, he's one of the few in the office right now. His team is working remotely, but he's out doing the things that he has to do. You know, Chuck Coleman, he's an attorney, but also owns Muyao's Burgers. Same thing. And so I challenge you to develop that work ethic now. Go beyond. You know, if your teacher tells you to do something, do a little bit more. Your parents tell you to do something, do a little bit more. And then the next time, do it without having to be asked. Okay, that is what rewards folks. So give a little lagniappe in the work you do. You know, you're conscientious of everything. You know, you walk into a room and you see everything, you catch everything. And that's a habit of successful entrepreneurs. You know, they're very conscious of people. They're conscious of the situation. When I say situation, the marketplace, their business, their competitors. And so you become a true student of your environment to the point that you see things others don't see. And just that habit and practicing it everywhere you go develops that skill set. You've heard me say this before. You're only born with two things. So everything else is developed. You know, you have the fear of falling and the fear of loud noise as a human. Everything else you consciously develop. So now you're aware of that. I need you to work on it, okay? Use your time wisely. You know, that's one of the things that during this time frame, I'm asking myself, hey, what am I doing? I want to make sure I'm not binge watching too much TV. Right now, that's the date night with my wife. But, you know, you ask yourself, hey, I'm not in school, but am I still growing? You know, am I spending some time? I've had a chance to talk to some of you, and I got a couple follow-up calls I got to do when I finish this video to just, you know, see where some things are. You know, one of the high school students, you know, looking for jobs. in the grocery market. So we shared some things and, talked about some ways to look at that, but using that time wisely. Another one, studying different subject matters outside of what school is sharing with them. And so ask yourself, hey, what are you doing? Are you using your time wisely? Okay, I want to challenge you that. Have a plan for each day. One of the tools I use over the years and developed and had to pull it out, even though my days are I'm not leaving the house much, and you should not either, but I'm able to actually plan my day out. I have online meetings. Immediately after this recording, I got a meeting. Then I got some work I got to get ready to do for a conference that we're planning, a virtual conference. So it's a lot of things I got to plan out each day. And that's the way your day should be. Right now, you look at your schoolwork that you may be having to do remotely, plan it out. Hey, when you're going to play some video games, maybe go out in the backyard and get a little exercise in, shoot some hoops, if you can do that. Whatever it is, hey, how you going to help out around the house? Plan your day out. See, that's what entrepreneurs do, highly successful entrepreneurs. They wake up early. This is a habit I got years ago from my granddad and my dad. To this day, my dad still gets up early. I remember my grandfather was older and my grandmother was no longer living. Even when my granddad wasn't working, he had that habit of getting up early. He was an entrepreneur, owned a couple businesses. My dad, same way. And so you got to get up early. That's a habit of successful entrepreneurs. Successful entrepreneurs don't start at 10 o'clock. They're probably halfway through their day at 10 o'clock. And then you set goals. We've talked about goal setting. This is a principle that's going to serve you well. Using that SMART methodology. You have that information, but when we talk about that, specific, measurable, obtainable, relevant, and time-bound. SMART goals. We gave you our 2x4 methodology. For every goal you have 2 reasons why it's important. Have 2 people who's going to help you. That's the who. We have others. Y stands for, what helps you. So, you're looking at your goal. Hey, you are a senior in high school right now, or junior in high school. Let's look at those goals of what you have for school, your career goals, and what are your next steps. And then 4, we said 2x4. So 2 times 2 equals 4. 2 times 2 equals 4. Guess what? What are 4 things you're going to do? What are 4 things you're going to do? And so have those goals. That's what business owners do. I'm refining some goals. I'm doing what we call the pivot right now. Developing my personal pivot plan because, hey, some of the things I planned out at the first of the year, they're not happening, okay? The revenue of my store, it won't be the same. So I got to pivot. I have to pivot and then deal with stress effectively. See, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, here's what's going to happen. You're going to have a lot of things coming at you continuously. Okay, you get frustrated. You cannot control everything. So I want you to write this down. Real simple. Write this down. Response, reaction. I choose to respond or allow myself to react. I challenge you to do the first. See, in your lives and personal relationships, the person that responds, sometimes it ends up in a fight or some type of altercation when they react. When a person responds to a situation, they think about what's happening beyond step 1, step 2, step 3. So they think beyond where they are. Reactions typically are volatile. Responses are more appropriate. So that's one way to deal with stress. But that is a habit of successful entrepreneurs. And then the last one is they look ahead for obstacles. So they're seeing beyond where they are. So there are great days. As I look at my personal business, I, was able to say, okay, Howard, you got to start looking at the ebbs and flow. The cycle is changing. I wasn't planning on this, of course, and I would be crazy to say last year I could predict this, but you start to look ahead for obstacles and plan for it and say, okay, what do I need to have in place so I can pivot? Okay, you know, because you need a position in which, and that's what successful entrepreneurs do. You know, that is what you're going to do throughout your life. Hey, what obstacles will stop me or could stop me? And how do I get around it? You know, there are detours. You're going to have those in life. Every business has those in life. Life is not a straight line. You know, life is not a road without detours and potholes and sometimes dead ends. And so those are obstacles in our life. So I want you to challenge you to think about that and say, hey, okay, as I'm going through life, as I look to start a business, here's some things I have to think about. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down, you know, what are 7 habits or 8 habits that serve you well? I mean, I'm sorry, not even serve you well. Let me back up. What are your habits? You know, when you look at, as it relates to these, you take these 8, you have the worksheet with you. So you're able to take the worksheet and look at them and say, by each habit, what is yours? What's your mindset around that habit? You know, what do you do as it relates to that? So like getting up early, do you get up early? Do you have those written goals? Yes or no? So if you don't, then your habit is not setting goals. So think about that. And then as you look at it, you say, hey, is that helping me or is that harming me on my path to business success? Is that helping me or harming me on my path to life success? So you may not own a business, or a couple of you that do have some things you do. So it's your choice. But once again, remember what we've always said, principles are few, processes are many. These are core principles that are going to serve you well no matter where you go and grow. So I want to challenge you to think about that. And then think about what you want to accomplish and be successful and say, hey, how do I need to replace some of my habits? Because you have a habit one way or the other in all these areas. But it's up to you to choose to build that set of habits that's going to support where you want to go. So when you look at your goals, you got to say, oops, I don't have goals. Well, that is something you need to do. And then you say, do my habits support my goals? You know, being transparent. Hey, you know, I'd said I wanted to lose some weight, but I hadn't been living that lifestyle. You know, sitting around home, hey, the refrigerator has become too much of my friend. So I got to change my habits. I have to change my habits. And so this week, instead of eating breakfast, I drink breakfast. Instead of eating lunch, I'm drinking lunch. And then I'll eat a good meal this afternoon. I get out and go walking, or walking, as I say, a little bit of running and a whole lot of walking. But in order to get where I want to get, I have to change my habits. That's all I'm saying to you. Principles, that's a principle. Habits are a principle. So habits either support you or habits hurt you. You know, the habit of studying daily, that helps you increase your grade point average. The habit of waiting to the last minute, that hurts you. Now, when you get in business, the same way, doing a little bit each day, working on a big project every day is equivalent to studying every day. Or waiting to the last minute and staying up all night trying to get ready for a presentation, that is a habit that doesn't help you, doesn't serve you well. So I want you to think about that. And then ask yourself, am I winning or losing? Because the winners have great habits. The winners have great habits. And, you know, how far will your habits take you? That's something I want to challenge you to think about. So in closing, I want to leave you with this quote from General Colin Powell. If you're going to achieve excellence in big things, you have to develop, I have a typo there, and I apologize, develop the habit in little matters, okay? Develop the habits in little matters. Develop, okay? Excellence is not an exception. It is a prevailing attitude. So we talked about the growth mindset, having that, and then putting the habits to support those goals and that growth mindset will give you that prevailing attitude. So with that said, I'm going to challenge you guys to go out and excel through this time. Be safe, but still grow and develop those habits that's going to support you. All right, take care. God bless. And we shall see you guys shortly. Bye-bye.